The birth of Prince Nnanna brought joy to the kingdom, as he was the first son in the third generation of late King Emeka II. The king's palace was cursed by Nnanna, a maiden from the village, who was wrongly accused of a crime she didn't commit. She was accused of being a spy for the neighboring village. King Nnamdi didn't investigate the issue and summoned that she be stoned to death. This is why there was no son in the palace for a long time. Although the curse was known among the king's family, no one could break it. Hannah's family and siblings left the village after the incident, making King Azuka the last living male from his family. King Azuka is the son of the 8th wife of the late King Nnamdi. The palace was blessed with beautiful daughters, but there wasn't any male. Even the palace daughters couldn't give birth to male children in their various homes. King Azuka got married to a maiden from a different village, who was pure in heart. He was told that marrying her would be the only way to get a son who would continue the lineage of the great King Emeka. Queen Susan is a beautiful lady, free-spirited, and loved by everyone in the palace. She treated them like family, encouraged them to love one another and be at peace with one another. When she conceived, everyone prayed it would be a son, including the palace daughters. They believed if Queen Susan gave birth to a boy, the curse could be broken, giving them a chance to also have sons. The queen gave birth to a son who was greatly celebrated by the entire village, but she never knew he had his own issues. Even after Queen Susan gave birth to her son, the palace daughters weren't able to give birth to sons. They were heartbroken and completely shattered. Prince Nnanna was betrothed to a girl named Emmanuella from birth, as per the village tradition, that a prince is to be betrothed to a family, giving the community a fair share in the kingdom. Emmanuella is the daughter of Mr. Obi, a trader in the village market and a member of the king's cabinet. He was honored by the request, so Emmanuella was groomed on how to be a princess from a young age. Prince Nnanna grew up to be a very handsome giant, surprising everyone as no one in his lineage was a giant. He was greatly feared and mocked by villagers who, saying that the family he was betrothed to would cancel. They joked that if he lay on the same bed with his wife, he would squeeze the life out of her. Prince Nnanna's clothes and shoes were specially made due to his large body size, and his quarters in the palace were built to his size. Prince Nnanna's body size made him lack friends from young age, as children of his age were afraid of him. He grew in strength and might, greatly feared by all, but he was lonely on the inside. Prince Nnanna became a great warrior, winning many battles. Because of his size, neighboring villages were scared of him, knowing that going to war with Ogidi village would be a lost battle. Prince Nnanna had no one to talk to except his parents. His betrothed wife's family was yet to fix a date for them to meet. Most maidens ran away from him when he passed through the community, making it difficult for him to talk to anyone or have the opportunity to fall in love with anyone. On the other hand, Emmanuella didn't like the idea of being betrothed to a giant prince. She questioned her parents, asking why they agreed to it. Her parents always explained that no one knew he would turn out to be a giant. She was ridiculed by her friends, who asked how she would kiss him, saying, "Would the palace maids assemble a ladder for you to climb in, other to meet his mouth?" They laughed and made jokes about how tall his chamber would be, suggesting she had to be careful not to be stepped on. Emmanuella always felt embarrassed by these words but didn't give in, as a strong spirit always told her he was her husband, even when she felt let down by the words she heard. One day, King Azuka summoned Mr. Obi regarding the marriage of their children to understand the delay. When Mr. Obi came to the palace, he greeted the king, who asked him to sit. The king asked why there was a delay in the marriage plans for their children. Mr. Obi responded that the kids were betrothed when they were small, and his daughter hadn't given a go-ahead for the marriage rites to commence. The king asked Mr. Obi to speak to his daughter to know the next step to take. When Mr. Obi got home, he called Emmanuella and asked if she still hadn't made up her mind about the prince. He said he didn't want the king to send for him again concerning this matter, and could tell the king they wouldn't go ahead with it if she didn't want to marry a giant. Emmanuella closed her eyes, feeling torn between two voices, one telling her not to go ahead with the plans and the other pushing her to go ahead, telling her he was her husband. The voice saying he was her husband was so strong that she couldn't resist, and she said, "He is my husband." Her father was shocked and asked if she was sure. Emmanuella nodded her head. Quickly, Mr. Obi sent one of his servants with news to the king, telling him that the marriage arrangements could commence. Both families fixed a date to meet. Prince Nnanna was to visit Emmanuella's home for the first time. All necessary arrangements were made, and they were to host him outside their home, as the prince couldn't pass through the door of the house. That day, Emmanuella wasn't happy. She sat at the backyard and cried, feeling confused. She questioned why she was marrying him and why the voice in her head kept telling her he was her husband. Her mother, who was looking for her, saw her crying and quickly asked what the issue was. Emmanuella responded that she was confused and didn't think she liked him enough to get married to him, but had a strong voice telling her to go ahead with it. Her mother hugged her and told her to listen to her heart, saying she couldn't like him yet because she didn't know him. She encouraged her to give it a try and to go look her best. Emmanuella stood up, wiped her tears, went to her room and prepared herself. She wore a beautiful maroon outfit and came out to welcome the prince and his family. When her parents brought her out, the prince couldn't stop looking at her. She rose her head, greeted him and his family, and he just smiled. As the families discussed the marriage plans, Emmanuella and Prince Nnanna couldn't stop looking at each other. Emmanuella, who he was inside, and if he was nice. She questioned whether he believed in love or was just getting married to avoid loneliness, and if she would have a say in the marriage or be treated like a trophy. She also wondered why he hadn't said a word since he arrived, and if his voice was too deep. Prince Nnanna, on the other hand, wondered if she would love him for who he was, if she would be afraid because he was very big, and if she was getting married out of pressure from her parents or because they were betrothed from birth. He loved the way she smiled. Emmanuella's mother noticed how they were looking at each other without speaking and suggested that Emmanuella show the prince around. Emmanuella agreed, and they stood up and left the elders behind. They walked for some minutes without a word, and Emmanuella thought to herself if he was shy to start a conversation, and if this was how their marriage would be. Before she knew it, Prince Nnanna asked why she was lost in thought. She turned, looking around, thinking someone else was talking to her. The prince then said, "I am Prince Nnanna." Emmanuella was shocked that his voice was tiny and calm, thinking it should have been deep. She responded, "I am Emmanuella." They started talking about their childhoods, with Emmanuella having a very interesting childhood memories compared to the prince, who was feared from a young age. They discussed their hobbies and got so into the conversation that they lost track of time. Emmanuella couldn't stop laughing while the prince told her about the numerous battles he went on and how some opponents never showed up and some ran at the sight of him. The king and others watched them from behind, knowing they would be a perfect match. The king and queen left without disturbing Prince Nnanna, as they hadn't seen him this happy in a while. Emmanuella's parents went inside, leaving the prince and Emmanuella outside. They sat and talked for a long time, and soon the stars were out. The prince asked Emmanuella if she believed in wishes, saying she did. He asked her to make a wish, which he would also do. They both made a wish in their hearts, and Prince Nnanna quickly asked Emmanuella what she wished for. She smiled and said she wouldn't tell him unless they eventually got married. It was getting late, so the prince had to leave. His palace guards were already waiting to escort him back. As they walked to Emmanuella's gate, he asked if she would visit him soon, saying he would love to have her at the palace to see more stars. Emmanuella smiled and said she would visit. "I will let you know when I will be coming." The prince left with so much joy in his heart. Emmanuella thought everyone had slept. While entering her house, she tried not to make a sound, but the moment she entered, she saw everyone waiting for her. Her mother quickly said, "I see you and the prince had a great time together. You both were smiling throughout." Emmanuella responded, "He seems nice. I only wish he wasn't this huge." "Mother, do you know he also has a calm voice?" Her father smiled and said, "Yes, he does. That's something he always had as a child." "I thought giants should have deep voices," Emmanuella responded. Her mother then said, "This giant doesn't have a deep voice, and my daughter is gradually liking him." Both her parents smiled at each other. On the other hand, Emmanuella still had mixed feelings. She wasn't really sure if she liked him as a husband or if it was because this was the first time they were speaking that everything seemed good. The next day, Emmanuella sent a message stating her visit to the palace in 2 days' time. Prince Nnanna felt excited and hoped that this journey was going to end well. Emmanuella prepared herself to visit the prince. She wanted to look her best. She would be appearing in front of all his family members, so she didn't want any faults in her appearance. When she was done preparing, her friend Nnanna came to visit. She then informed her about visiting the palace to see the prince. Nnanna laughed and said, "Are you going to see your betrothed husband? Please, when you return, you have to tell me a lot about it. How does his room in the palace look? How tall is it? Is it like a cave? Please don't leave anything out. But seriously, are you thinking of getting married to him? Are you sure you will love him? He is not a regular man. Are you even sure you will birth a male child? Have you forgotten that the palace is cursed?" With all Nnanna said, nothing affected Emmanuella, like the fact that she might never give birth to a son. But she tried to encourage herself. The day to visit Prince Nnanna came. Emmanuella dressed up, looking so beautiful, and went to the palace. When she got there, Prince Nnanna welcomed her. He had prepared a beautiful table for her. They walked majestically to his quarters. While she was inside, she noticed the walls were quite tall, not like her home. His part of the palace was built to fit his size. Being in the same room with him, with the tall walls and his huge frame, she could only wonder about a life with him. All the words her friend Nnanna said gradually visited her thoughts. Everything felt different and not okay to her. The table where she was to eat was so tall she couldn't see its setting from where she was standing. She felt like a dwarf in the land of giants. The mixed feelings gradually started building up. The long-awaited visit was gradually losing its joy. Emmanuella remained quiet throughout with a lot of thoughts going through her head. Will this be my fate? Will a ladder be set for me to climb during our wedding? I don't think I can do this. I can't. I really can't do this. Prince Nnanna noticed the sudden change in her demeanor and tried his best to cheer her up, but to no avail. She couldn't hide the displeasure on her face. He had to stop and send the palace guards to drop her off. When she got home, she went straight to her room. She felt bad for not talking to the prince while he tried to cheer her up, but her feelings got the better part of her. As much as she would love to apologize to him, she really didn't want to see him again. She just needed the time and space to know if she was truly ready to take the bold step. Emmanuella started avoiding words about the date of the wedding. She kept telling her parents she hadn't made up her mind and needed more time. Prince Nnanna came to visit her one day and she refused to come out. She hid at the back of the kitchen walls and refused to show her face to him. The prince waited until sunset, but Emmanuella never came out. Prince Nnanna made up his mind, while leaving the house, not to visit again. The courage it took him to walk down the street just to pay her a visit was in vain. Emmanuella's mother had to talk to her. "My dearest daughter, if you don't want to go on with the marriage plans anymore, just speak up. No one is forcing you into it. You don't have to do it for us. All that matters to us is your happiness and nothing else." Emmanuella looked at her mother and said, "I like his personality, but there are so many thoughts I can't get rid of. Mama, how am I going to share the same bed with him? What position would I be on the bed? His leg side, his face, or his stomach? The other day when I visited him, I had to climb a ladder to get to his table. Mama, I am really confused. I do like him, but his height is the issue. Why is he a giant?" Her mother responded, "You know one can't get everything they want in life, but as time goes on and you go through life, you gradually get those things. I am not forcing you to go into anything. What does your heart want? If your heart wants him, then do it. If your heart doesn't, we will call off the wedding immediately. The yam is in your hands. The knife is in your hands. We are waiting." Emmanuella knew she couldn't run anymore. It was either she called off the wedding or married him. The disadvantages were more than the advantages to her. So, She made up her mind to call it off rather than wasting the prince's time. While she was sleeping at night, she had this beautiful dream where she was with the prince. But in the dream, he wasn't a giant, he was normal like every other person. When she woke up, she asked herself, is he ever going to be a normal person, or am I thinking too much about him that I can't think straight anymore? She prepared herself and left her room to break the news of her decision to decline the marriage. When the strong voice spoke up again, "He is your husband," she screamed, "No!" But the voice was so persistent that she couldn't move. It felt like she was battling with her inner self. She sat down on the floor and started crying. She didn't know what to do. Why am I having mixed feelings? Why is my life complicated? Why is this voice in my head calling him my husband? She cried out. She had to return to her room. With all this happening, Prince Nnanna didn't visit after that day. Emmanuella then asked her mother, if he likes me, why hasn't he visited me since the last time? Probably seeing him would help me have a clearer view if I want to marry him or not. Her mother responded, with the way you treated him last time, you refused to come out, and he sat here until sunset, but you refused to show your face. Do you know how hurt he must have felt? The thought of walking down this village where he is, always mocked when he passes, and putting that aside just to see you, but you refuse to show your face. If I were him, I wouldn't visit until I was certain you wanted it. Mama, are you siding with him? You should be siding with me. If I eventually get married to him, I will also have a lot to bear. You know that. Her mother said, I know, my dear, but if you like him, then just give him a response. The next day, Emmanuella went to visit Prince Nnanna unannounced. When she got to the palace, she was allowed inside, but she was surprised he didn't come out to welcome her. At first, she thought he was angry, not until she was taken to his bedchamber. She was given assistance to get up the bed. She saw him lying down. He was ill and couldn't come out to welcome her. Seeing him, her heart fell. She asked him if she could stay on his chest since she wouldn't fit anywhere else. So she climbed and stayed on his chest. His heart was beating so fast. She asked him why. He responded, because you're on it. She looked at him but couldn't utter a word. Prince Nnanna then told her, I like you. I really do. But if you can't go on with the marriage plans, I totally understand. No one wants to marry a giant. We shouldn't give our parents hope if we wouldn't end up being together. She looked at him and said, so you're a great warrior on the battlefield, but not a warrior for matters of the heart? You can't fight for me, yet you say you like me. Prince Nnanna looked at her, confused. I came here today to apologize for last time and to tell you I will marry you, but since you have given up already, I would just apologize and take my leave. No wonder you never visited after the other day. Prince Nnanna looked at her, too weak to chase after her, too weak to battle words with her. He then said, I'm sorry. I felt you didn't want it due to your refusal to come out the last time I visited. Emmanuella then said, okay, I have a condition to this. You have to visit me often until the wedding day, at least to breathe the fresh air of the village, not binding yourself to your home, which Prince Nnanna accepted. Prince Nnanna and Emmanuella saw each other every other day. Her fears gradually started disappearing. The days he wasn't able to come, she would go and wait for him at the palace. She got used to climbing ladders, and the staircase was built specifically for her. She felt loved, with the prince showering her with lots of gifts and attention. The grand wedding was fixed. Emmanuella went to let her friends know about her wedding, which in turn they mocked her. So, you still choose him? If you come crying to us later, regretting your actions, we will tell you we warned you. All their words didn't get to her. She was clouded by love. All that mattered to her was her happiness. Prince Nnanna personally handpicked the best royal tailor to make her wedding dress. The dress was magnificent. It was everything she wanted in a wedding dress. On the wedding morning, her friends came to cheer and celebrate with her, even if they did it in mockery in their hearts. The wedding was colorful, the dream of every lady in the village, but not with a giant. That night, it was time to bless the marriage. They both looked at each other and said, we shouldn't be in a rush. We can take things gradually. But in Emmanuella's heart, she wanted something to happen that night. She had heard how the wedding night feels special and different, but she didn't want to push it, so they talked all through the night. Before she knew what was happening, Prince Nnanna started kissing his beloved wife. What started as a harmless kiss gradually led to lovemaking. The next morning when they both woke up, Emmanuella started screaming, "Who are you and what are you doing in my bed? Where's the prince?" The prince was confused. "I am the prince," said Prince Nnanna, who lifted his hands to explain himself. He was shocked and started screaming, "What happened to me?" Prince Nnanna went to the mirror to see if his birthmark was still on his body, which he quickly showed her. She then asked, "What happened? Why are you like me?" He responded, "I don't know. I am as surprised as you are." They ran to the king's chamber to inform him of what had happened. When they got to the king's chamber, the guards refused to let Prince Nnanna enter, but Emmanuella pleaded with them, as Prince Nnanna couldn't remove his clothes to explain to everyone that he is the prince. They allowed them into the king's chambers. When they entered, the king asked Emmanuella, "Why are you in my chambers this early, and who is this person standing by your side?" Prince Nnanna quickly said, "Papa, it's me, Nnanna." The king was shocked. "What's happening here?" Emmanuella then responded, "That's why we're here. We woke up this morning just to see that Prince Nnanna is no longer a giant." The king immediately sent for the chief priest. The palace chief priest came immediately. The moment he entered the place, before he was told anything, he went straight to Emmanuella, held her hands and said, "Thank you for returning to us." She was confused. "Returning? I don't understand." The chief priest then told the king that Emmanuella was the reincarnation of Hannah. "That can't be true. Her father isn't related to that family, nor is her mother," said the king. The chief priest asked that Emmanuella's parents come to the palace. When they came, he asked Emmanuella's mother if she knew of her grandparents, which she said yes. She then revealed that her grandparents told her she was from their village, but left after an incident with her grand-aunt. So, after the death of her grandparents and parents, she came back to Ubuo, to this village, with her siblings. While looking for what to do, she found a husband and got married. So she couldn't remember most of the story. The chief priest then said, "She has forgiven the palace. That's why she has returned through Emmanuella, and why she also accepted the marriage. The curse has been removed by bedding her husband, Prince Nnanna." All this sounded strange to Emmanuella, but then she remembered the strong voice that always told her, "He is your husband," and came to the conclusion that it was her aunt speaking to her. The chief priest left, and everyone returned to their daily lives. Prince Nnanna refused to come out for a while, but Emmanuella stood by him throughout, knowing it would be a bit strange and difficult. Nothing changed between them. Instead, their love waxed stronger and deeper. The prince's chamber was demolished and rebuilt. The palace daughters gradually started giving birth to male children, one after the other. Prince Nnanna decided to show his face to the people. The king announced a celebration in the palace. When the villagers gathered, the king asked Nnanna. They were all surprised at his look. The king then announced that the palace is free from all curses, something to hold on to. In life, we shouldn't be quick to give a final verdict on something without proper investigations. The sin of one king was suffered. Thank you for watching my stories. To my returning subscribers, thanks a lot. I really appreciate. If you're new on this channel, welcome to the family. On this channel, we tell beautiful African tales. So, always grab your popcorn when you get a notification from us. Also, please don't forget to like, leave a comment on how you feel about the characters in each stories. Share to loved ones, as it helps the channel to grow. Until then, we will meet again in our next story. Bye for now.